Why am I wearing my hangover shades? Because watching WandaVision at 3 a.m. every Thursday night is driving me to drink. Hello, and welcome to Voice of the Fat Mantis, and I'm review of the penultimate episode of WandaVision. That's right, only one episode left after this one, and this one was another banger. It was absolutely beautiful on so many levels. Every time I think Elizabeth Olsen doesn't have anything left in her tank, or her repertoire of acting, she's able to show us even more. She is a powerhouse. Honestly, a star is born on this thing, and I hope even after the MCU, if this is coming to an end, that she has a million other roles. I will watch every single one of them. Now, I'm going to end up giving this episode 2 grades. It's like the twins, Pietro and Wanda, or Billy and Tommy, actually, that they are two faces of the same coin. I'm going to review it as the penultimate episode momentum wise, and then the other one is just an episode of a show that I love. We're going to start on color theory. Now, color theory is an interesting thing that a lot of people are talking about on the internet. Now, it has to do with the mage's color schemes of their energy projection, and mage is hipster talk for a magic user. So Doctor Strange is rocking the orange colors, right? And Wanda is rocking the red. Now, evil Agatha Harkness is using purple. And if you notice in the flashback at the beginning of the Salem, Massachusetts attempt to burn Harkness at the stake, the witches were using a blue energy, right? An interesting theory about what's going on with these different colors. Now, obviously purple is the evil one, but if you notice, Billy uses blue energy. That's right, just like the standard witches of the Coven in Massachusetts. And I think it's possible that where did they get the spiritual energy to create these little boys down there? Yes, absolutely. I think they are the resurrections of the spirits of the Coven, of the original witch Coven, and that's why his magical energy is blue. Now, obviously there's more than just two witches. What's going on here? They could be a gestalt, the accumulation of spirits, the return of the Coven. Basically, marks the return of the witch or the origin of the mutants. That's just depending on how you look at it. Now, we're going to have to move on to the flashbacks. This show is primarily about flashbacks about Wanda and how she got here and what's going on, and they actually brilliantly are able to show us these emotional scenes that connect to other properties and things, everything from her origin onward. Now, the first one goes back to Sokovia, the day the missile landed in her house. As we all know, a Stark brand missile was used during the Civil War in Sokovia, and a missile landed in her house, killing her parents, and her and her brother were scared that if they moved, the missile will blow them up, and they stayed there for 2 days until somebody rescued them. We get to see a young Wanda go through this, and she is cute and cuddly and beautiful, and so is her brother, and it's just adds to the depth of pain that this show is about. Now, it's interesting, we get to see how she did it. How did this missile not go off? I mean, it's Stark brand, it's got to be good quality. She apparently used her hex powers, and this was before she was exposed to the Mind Stone, which supposedly gave her powers, indicating that she's probably a mutant. Now, there's a lot of confusion on the internet about her and what's going on with her powers, and there's an argument whether she's a witch or she's a mutant. Now, I don't know where you read or learned that you can only be one, but if you look at the comics, she is both a witch and a mutant. You know, look at Illyana Rasputin, who is also a witch and a mutant. There are actually a couple of others that I can't think off the top of my head. In the comics, multiple mutants are magic users simultaneously, and there seems to be no problem with this. In the comics, her ability to alter reality, known as her hex powers, changes the probability of something to happen. For instance, if you come out with a gun, she can activate the power to make it more likely that your gun will jam. This is a slight alteration of reality. However, that same energy band is the same one that makes magic be able to affect reality, which allowed her later on to learn magic through both Doctor Strange and Agatha Harkness. So yes, she is actually both, and it doesn't eliminate any mutant theory. Next, we're going to move on to the second flashback. This has to do with the fact that every woman deep down inside has a goddess within her. It's a goddess of nature or a goddess of beauty. Perhaps it is the warrioress. And yes, a goddess of sex. I'm sorry, I had to say it. I am a simple man, just doing my job. I'm just here to speak the truth, guys. Yes, there is a sex goddess within all of them, but there is a goddess nonetheless lurking. The infinite potential of a woman. And we get to see a flashback when Wanda supposedly got her empowerment when she had a chance to commune with the Mind Stone. And in it, she's visited by her future self or her inner goddess or whatever it is. And for starters, I'd like to point out that Elizabeth Olsen still looks beautiful, even though they try to make her look emaciated. She looks impoverished and overly pale and emaciated, like she hasn't eaten in months during her hardships gaining her powers, and she still looks gorgeous. You know, she's able to access this, and this shows that the Mind Stone was able to boost her little hex powers from little probability changing to all-out goddess. So she had this inner goddess within her, which unfortunately is the explanation for everything that's going on. Doesn't seem to be any other sophisticated explanation as to why she's able to alter reality to such a degree in WandaVision. It's just her grief letting her inner vengeful goddess out. Which I'm fine with, we'll roll with that. I was hoping for a deeper explanation. I think we're all hoping for Mephisto or something. Now the third flashback, how her and Vision started to chill. He comes into her room at night, phases through the wall, just helps himself to chillin' with her, and they have this beautiful back and forth. I'm so grateful for this scene. One of the best things about the show is seeing them be in love, and it's so beautiful that I finally get to see how they fell in love. That kind of area was skipped over because the movies focus on action, and I'm glad that we had a moment to slow down and actually see that. And it was really cute to watch them watch Malcolm in the Middle and watch them essentially Netflix and chill. It's cute how modern day coupling is, and they both are very lonely, sad people, but have a lot of love to give, and basically they found love in a hopeless place. It was beautiful. And so we're going to move on to the fourth flashback in Wanda's mind, and this is the one where she tries to recover Vision's body after his unfortunate death, and she has a slight tussle with Sword. Now this is a very sad scene, and it's interesting that Hayward would attempt to egg her on and taunt her into using her powers to turn Vision back on. He thought that if he provokes her enough by the slight ways he spoke to her, that she would be emotional enough and just wave her hand and turn him back on, but that's not what she did. She actually ditched his body, which I don't think any of us even thought was a possibility. It was really heart-wrenching, and I really felt her pain there. And then she goes to where her and Vision were going to retire, which is Westview, which in reality is a total dump. It's economically depressed, and there's just a lot of hardship as she drives to the town. You see all the players of the series so far having hardships. And what's interesting is when Wanda reinvents the world, she's actually a superhero here. She gives lonely people spouses, and she gives people who are jobless and destitute employment and a place in society. And she beautifies the place. And there's just countless alterations that she did that were in the positive. And it actually makes her look like the actual hero of this story. Even though we've all been convinced that she's so evil. I really enjoyed it. And of course, she's able to will her boo back to life. But of course, he can only exist in this fantasy realm that she's created. But it's so beautiful to see that moment when he comes into reality and he says, Wanda. And so finally, we're going to move on to the final end credit scene. I'm really glad that they're embracing end credit scenes now. And this is the introduction to the White Vision. Now, this is something I've been asking for a while and predicting as well. If you look back, I'll put a link down in the description. Back in June, that was on my wish list for WandaVision. That I did a video where I was saying, I hope the White Vision shows up. And I assumed that was what it was. He would end up being soulless or more robotical, but being the White Vision as he had throughout the 90s. As you know, one of his most major phases as a character was in the 90s where he couldn't find his soul, so he was just a robot, and he was completely all white. Nicknamed the White Vision, but everyone just called him Vision. And basically, that's a staple of comics. If you don't know that, then you probably don't know that Jean Grey was once called the Dark Phoenix. I don't know. Read a comic. But, I'm going to have to say that it is interesting that so many of our theories and ideas have been just shot down so far, and I'm not bitter about that. Tell the story you want to tell. I'm here for the ride. But it is interesting that the comic books have overcomplicated story narratives, and the adaptations seem to be hyper simple. And they can't seem to find a middle ground. And I'm one of those people who hopes there's a middle ground. I wanted to see the Grim Reaper. And by the way, Feige, that was not cool that you put his helmet in there. That is cheating. That's going farther than an Easter egg. That is just not cool. So it looks like we're not going to see a lot of these guys. No AIM, no Grim Reaper. There's really no time to tell them. Probably no Wonder Man. I don't even think... I couldn't even write him into this in one episode. But I will say that I still think there's a possibility Ultron might make an appearance. He might be controlling the White Vision, or I have a feeling that there might be an end credit scene at the end that Hayward is being controlled by none other than Ultron. Fingers crossed. So there you go. That's my analysis. And the final verdict is, as the penultimate episode of a season, I'm going to have to give this an 85. However, as an episode that was beautiful and just wants me to have more, I'm going to give it a 98, which means it might be one of the best episodes thus far. What did you guys think? Am I way off the mark? What are your thoughts? What are your theories? Do you still think that AIM, the Grim Reaper, or Wonder Man might make an appearance? Is Dottie actually the Enchantress and they're going to slide her in out of nowhere? Who knows? Please let me know down in the comments. And remember to like, share, and certainly subscribe. Remember to keep tuning in to Voice of the Fat Mantis for more reviews, deep dives, and shenanigans. Until next time, ciao for now.